Hey everybody, it's Kid Riot. This is a fight I recorded last Friday. It was us versus Premier, and it was really our first fort attack. We'd been looking forward to a fort attack for a long time, and I was just sharing this footage so people can take a look and kind of see it from our perspective, see really the mistakes that I made. I don't mind sharing them because I learned from them, and really there's some of the things that we did that worked really well, some things that we had planned that didn't work out, and then there were some unforeseen things. And one of those unforeseen things was the party mess at the start of the fight, because I had set up groups. I mean, we have like an ideal party makeup for a siege, but because of the merger and the way the clan works now, our top guys at like 600 KCP, and we have like people on the bottom at about 300 KCP. So I had stacked groups. Essentially, I had one main idea where it was to toss all the CP heavy hitters in the mid group, is what I called. The ones that would fight around Found in the imprint. And then I had what I called swing groups, which is about 3 to 4 groups of lower CP. Also, actually, I should mention we only have 5 healers in the clan, so the 5 mid groups obviously had healers. And here I go off trying to interrupt. That was a dumb move on me. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So I had 5 mid groups in mid, and I was banking on our heavy hitters being able to soak up enough damage to just either hold Premier or be able to push. And then we had our swing groups where, in case I needed to interrupt or distract their imprint, I would toss those guys in, kind of like kamikaze groups. That was the idea, because lack of healers and just a huge difference in CP meant that we had really strong groups and really weak groups. If I had distributed the groups and made them a little bit more fair and optimized, we'd have a lot of CP spread around a lot of groups, and I didn't like that. I figured focus on our strengths and then push forward. But here it's about 28:51 and Premier already has their imprint, and this is something I didn't notice when we were fighting. I don't know what I was looking at or what I was watching. I think I come back finally and say, oh shit, we don't have our imprint. And this is pretty huge because right now they're fighting us with a damage buff, and we're struggling because I had our guys, like I said, our low CP guys and our imprint, which means that any of their guys, because it was really smart on their part, they were sending people to our imprint, trying to interrupt. And so because we had mid guys in mid, split from the rest of our clan, fighting a damage buffed Premier, it meant we were getting pushed back. And so I kind of was running around trying to cover certain things, and I guess I should talk about that. When I was fighting in this, I was focusing on 2 main things. I was watching, one, the mini map, because it's something I do in open siege. I don't really pay attention to what's around me unless, just mostly for positioning and saying I'm going to stop here and actually shoot, move back, and run away. But if you watch the minimap and the red dots, that really gives you a more accurate picture of how many people are where, how many of your friendlies are there. Because on the main map, on the main screen, you really can't see too much. So we're still struggling to get our imprint, and this is when I finally started to pay attention to what was around me. And so I come back and try and get the cap in, and it actually works this time. I didn't get interrupted. So I'm trying to watch the minimap with red dots. I'm trying to see whether they're pushing, whether we're pushing back, are we falling back, what's happening, trying to really get a feel for the flow of the battle. Because I think it's one of those things where Lineage 2 actually does really, really well in Siege. It's because of the nature of the auto system, and especially with the way body blocking works. There's just like this really like ebb and flow to fights. You can pretty much tell, okay, like we're gonna be able to push here, and as soon as we got our imprint, you could feel it. Like if you're just looking at the map, you could kind of slowly see our guys crawl across the fountain. They kind of slowly start to push across. That's kind of how that battle's flowing right there. So I see that we have the advantage, and I cried. I told everybody to push up and get to the choke, because if you can control the mid and the fountain, you're pretty much golden. And the idea is just to stall, especially because there isn't much time left on their imprint. So the timing was actually pretty lucky for us. I mean, we struggled to get our imprint, and it could have gone really, really bad for us at the start. I mean, I think if they had been able to push through our mid sooner and controlled our imprint, we would have been in a lot of hurt. But as it was, we got lucky. We were able to cap our imprint, and then the timing came around to that when we actually started pushing across the fountain, their imprint popped. So now we're fighting them, and we have a damage boost, and we're on their imprint. So this actually really, really worked out for us. And as I'm watching this, waiting for a double buff, immediately I tell the mid groups, go bottom gate and hit the top bottom tower. And then I was asking the swing groups to act as, flank protection. Now there are a few things that came up that I wish I had thought about sooner. And that was to have like a really strong anti-flank group. So the idea is that right now we're bottom, right? So if they push through kind of the soft groups in the middle, the lower CP guys in the middle, we would be wiped at the gate, which isn't too bad because we have a lot of time on the imprint, but it basically means it's a lot of deaths on our side. And so we respawn and the respawn timer gets longer. So if they had pushed with strength on top, instead of trying to meet us in the bottom, it would have been a definite wipe for us. I mean, some of us die, I die here. There's mage soaking damage. We still have other groups that are strong, holding the mid. Yeah, sorry, I'm waiting to see about the respawn. I forgot everything that happened, so I'm kind of watching along with you guys. So, along with looking at the minimap and trying to get a feel for the flow of the battle, I'm obviously keeping track of imprints. So my actual play, like my actual character playing is pretty bad. Like I wasn't out there trying to farm kills. I was honestly mostly just trying to run back and forth and use my movement speed to be able to see as much of the map as possible. And I think that's actually an advantage because I've seen other videos of shot callers as blade dancers or abyss walkers, and usually what happens is they'll engage, go in and die, and you really can't get much information because for the most part you really don't want too many people talking at once, and then if you do start to ask for information, if you get multiple answers, it's rough. So I mean, we had Mage talking. There's pretty much Mage and me talking this whole time. He was calling out his debuffs, but it was me staying alive, running around back and forth, and thanks to the movement speed I could see a lot of what was going on. So I think the idea for shot callers, at least in my opinion, because I've seen a lot of mistakes from people just dying, is to stay alive. And I even did it here because I would start to tunnel vision and then I would die. It's just to stay alive and see as much of the battle as possible. You're not really like, I don't actually play the game that much. I don't really participate too much in the battle. I mean, here obviously because, I said protect our imprint. But for the most part, I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to see what's happening, make sure I stay alive. And that was one of the things I told my guys, especially the people who had, it was their first experience in Fortress Siege, which it was for most of us, is I really wanted them to focus on two things. One was positioning, pay attention to your guy, know that, there's body blocking in this game, so don't block somebody else so that they can't run away or can't move forward. And two, don't die. And the idea behind one is, like I said before, it's kind of like this. You could see it right now happening in the choke, where the way those characters, some of those characters moving forward, you could kind of tell that they're on auto, and you could tell other ones that are actually moving their own character. There's something about the way the character moves that when they're on auto in PvP, you could kind of tell that the person's kind of letting the character move forward on its own. And this is one of the things that I really want eventually my guys to stop doing. And one of the ways to combat that is to get your attack distance to melee, so that way you have full control of your character. That way they don't actually, the AA doesn't assist you in any way, which is what you really want. But it's fine here. It was our first battle. Like I said, I just really wanted the guys focusing on positioning and not dying. But here, once we get both imprints, again, right away to the bottom, I feel putting early pressure on helps because it freaks the other team out. Holy shit, our gates are getting hit. So they're going to react. And that's really what you want the enemy doing. You want them freaking out. I assume and I hope that their comms were kind of a mess after this, because that's what you want. You really want your team to be calm, moving around. Even if it doesn't work, you just stay together. But if I'm putting pressure early on bottom, putting damage, then it starts to freak the other team out. And it was one of the things I told the guys too. Okay, we're going to go bottom. We're going to damage this. If you get low, go back to fountain. Don't die for this. So now we come back, we healed up, another wave of us hitting bottom. And like I said earlier, the ones hitting bottom, right now, this looks like it's everybody. So I think on this part I said everybody bottom. And I think, yeah, I pretty much, once it's low enough, I would just tell people die for this tower. So keep hitting it until you die. So that way you get max damage. We could afford the respawn because we still have, like, looks about 40 something seconds on our imprint, a minute and a half on theirs. push forward, and look how much damage we're doing to their artifact tower. And this actually I didn't expect this at all. I think they fell apart. I don't know exactly when. I think it was a lot of the mid movements that kind of messed them up. I feel like they were frustrated, like they didn't have an answer, because that was way too easy. I mean, if you look at the fights from earlier, it was pretty back and forth. I mean, we could have honestly lost it in the beginning, but here we are. It's about 10 minutes into the match and we win. So that's it. Hopefully, I was a little bit nervous recording this, but hopefully I got my point across and I was able to share something worth watching. Thanks.